Hi guys, I hope you're having a great week. This week is Protestant Easter and next week is Orthodox Easter. So we are celebrating Holy Weeks by drawing some art that's going to be related to Easter. Some symbols that we all know and love, such as the Easter Bunny, but we're also going to do crosses and some flowers, and next week we're going to do an icon. So grab your pencil and some paper. If you have any watercolors or colored pencils, grab those too, and we'll get started. All right, so we're drawing a bunny. So we're gonna start right here in the center. I'm actually gonna just use part of my paper. I'm not gonna use the whole thing because I don't wanna draw it too large. So we're gonna start with an oval. And I want you guys to draw very, very lightly because you're going to need to be able to erase some things. So we're going to start with a little bit of an oval right here. Kind of a circle, kind of an oval. It's kind of an odd shape. And then we're going to draw an oval coming right here, just this curved part, all right? We're going to draw another oval right there. We're gonna draw an oval here and here, and we're gonna draw an oval here and an oval there. And then we're gonna draw a little oval right there. So you can see that here's the top, the bottom, the sides. If I were to draw an X across it, it would be sitting, I'm gonna go ahead and draw an X across so you can see. It would be sitting right there. And I'm gonna erase that. I don't really need that, but I'm just kind of imaginary lines to kind of show you where that would go. Straight across from there is where his nose is going to be, and it's just going to be a little U shape, kind of like that. And then from there, you want to come down and then over here and over there. I think he looked a little sad, so I'm going to move it a little bit more. Okay. Make his face a little wider so that fits. Make his eye a little bit bigger. I think it needs to be just a little bit bigger than there. Okay, so we're going to go here now. We're going to start fleshing out this bunny. I'm going to draw that ear like that. I'm going to come around this other oval and draw that other ear. I'm going to connect this line, connect this. I'm not going to go all the way in. I'm going to just come out here and go along the edge of my oval. So he's going to have this big curve right here, and then you're going to connect this little paw right there. Okay, he is going to need to have another little one right there. I forgot to draw that earlier. And then his little tummy, and then his paws. So we're going to do this. On your oval, you're going to do this little shape, come up and over. And on this one, it's only going to be, because we're going to have his chest be here, we're going to erase this part of the oval, kind of clean that up a little bit. So he needs a little tail. That's going to be another oval. It's going to be sitting about right there. Okay, so that's a pretty decent bunny shape. So let's just clean him up a little bit. We do need his little jawline, but it didn't need to go all the way over. And I think I don't need all of these ovals in there. I'm going ahead and come over and down a little bit on his face. Still gonna work on his mouth a little bit. I think I'm gonna erase all of that, make his face again. So you see sometimes you can draw something and you decide you just don't like the way it looks at all. You can change it. All right, so I'm gonna put his nose right here like a little Y, a little line down, and then it should kind of come back that way. I think that looks better. All right, so this is our bunny. He's gonna have maybe some little shaded lines right here where his tummy is, or his chest, I'm sorry, is white. I'm gonna draw that like a little apron that he has, or a little bib that he has on there. Okay, and then I'm going to go right here and fix this ear a little bit so it isn't quite so cartoonish. It looks a little more real if you have that opening, kind of like that. And then over here, he probably should have that like there. Okay, and all right, so now we're gonna do a little bit of shading on him with a pencil. So if you're planning to do this with colored pencils, this would be a good time to switch to that. I'm just gonna do this with pencil and kind of show you a little bit of some areas that you wanna darken and some areas that you wanna leave lighter. So let's start here on the back of his neck, and I'm just making these little tiny lines, just one little line after another to shade his back. He's going to be darker where the light is not hitting him. So I'm just gonna darken this whole area. And you see I'm using little straight lines that kind of follow the direction of his body. I'm going to just shade him in this darker area first. So you can see how I'm kind of curving and following this line that I drew earlier. And I'm just using my pencil really, really lightly to color. I am coloring, but it's just very, very small, straight little lines that I'm using. And I'm not putting any pressure on my pencil, it's just barely touching the paper. If I want to make it even darker or color in better, then I'm just going to go over it again with a second light coat. All right, so I'm just going to darken this whole back side. And I'm going to go ahead and color these two, but I'm going to put the lines a little farther apart. They aren't quite touching as much so that more white on the paper shows through. I'm gonna kind of come along this and blend that so that he is not as dark over here as he was back here. And you can always go back and darken even more if you need to. Just do it really slowly. I need to come this direction, you see. Now right here is going to be where he's lightest. So right in this area behind him, he could be a little darker. We're going to come along the side there. He's going to be darker right down here where it's not as light. But I do want to make sure that my pencil is really, really light and that the lines aren't as close together where he's supposed to be lighter. Use more pressure or more coats where it's supposed to be darker. And I want to make sure that I leave that kind of light. So I'm going to go along this area first. I'm just gonna color that in barely, and you can see that I'm coloring in like long, skinny loops. You can stick with the little lines if you want. Down here he's gonna be darker, and up here he's gonna be lighter. Another thing that you can do is change the direction. This is called cross-hatching. When you go, let me show you, you go two different directions. That's called cross-hatching, and it's something that artists do a lot to shade darker areas. So you can do your entire bunny this way. So down here, he's gonna be darker. Up here, he's gonna be lighter. On the back of his ear, he'd be darker. And on the front, he's gonna be much lighter. And inside this ear, probably too, a little bit darker and lighter up there. So you can keep going back and adjusting your colors as you need to. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to go ahead and really quickly finish up this bunny. And then I'm going to show you how you can blend him. So his cheek I know is round, so I'm going to try to be careful not to shade it too flat. Right, so I'm going to try to shade in these directions, coming around him so that he doesn't look too flat. I might need to go over his mouth a little bit more, his nose a little bit more. So I don't want to really outline his cheek. What I'm going to do is color underneath it a little darker to show that it's there. Gotta finish his tummy and his paw. It's going to be darker down here. Do his other little foot. And for this white area, you can just do some really light little lines across there. Okay. I think I'm kind of happy with the way he looks. I'm going to darken him just a little more back in here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to kind of rub this some. You can get him to blend some. And then if there's some areas that I really want to blend some more, I'm going to take my eraser and I'm just going to work on those a little bit. So I'm just going to lift that out. I just use my eraser to blend a little bit. And I can put a little bit back again if I took off too much, which I think I kind of did there. Anyway. So you can see that there's a lot of different ways to get some lights and darks in here. You can just keep going back over your lines after you do the rubbing to try to darken some areas, or if you lost some detail that you need to reclaim, then that's what your pencil's for. I'm just gonna keep working on that. And the trick to this is very, very light pencil work. And you can always erase things that way. And you can blend things that way too, so that you get a nice even coloring on your bunny. Let's remember to give him some ground, or you could give him some grass if you want. Instead of ground, if you wanted to make some and let's put some shadow underneath him. Okay, and there we have a little Easter bunny in pencil. Okay, I'm going to show you how I would approach watercoloring this. First, I'm going to get this part of the bunny wet, just the part that I'm going to paint pale brown. Just painting with water first. I'm not being really careful about staying in the lines, but I'm trying to around the edges here, of course. All right. This just helps with making sure that the paint's gonna flow a little better if it's wet previously. I'm just going to go back and kind of put a little more paint just in the areas where he would be darker, which are the lower areas, all of this lower areas, and then along the back side of him. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush now. Now I wouldn't want to paint his eye right now because it would blend into the, oops. So you see how I got that too dark? I'm just going to put more water on there and it'll lighten that up right there. I'm going to do his nose too. I'm going to go ahead and paint this part of his chest really pale. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of the brown that we used just to kind of fill in this area. I'm going to be really careful with that nose that I painted because I don't want the pink and the brown to blend together. I'm going to go around the edges and kind of make sure they're even. I'm going to darken this a little more. This area a little more. And down here. And then, so this is my second coat. I'm just gonna kind of put on here. See how bold that is? And I'm gonna have a wet, clean brush and I'm just gonna blend that some. Same for this one. Be really careful there. clean brush again, just to kind of blend that away. I'm just painting with water and just picking up the paint that's already there and moving that around. Okay, I'm happy with that. I think his eye area should be dry enough now that I can probably come in with a darker brown. And when I'm picking up this brush, I'm just spinning my brush and pulling back so that I have a nice sharp point. I'm just gonna do this little eye. See how I'm holding my brush kind of straight up? You can get just the tip of the brush needs to touch the water for tiny details. And I'm gonna get a little more pink. I want his nose to show up a little bit better than that. With watercolors, you can take color off if it's too dark, and you can put color back on if it's too light. Now I'm picking up a slightly different color brown. I used this one first. Now I'm going to use this little bit lighter color just to put a little bit of wash on here, just to get a little bit of interest and depth in his color. I like to use at least 2 different colors when I'm painting something most of the time. Just makes it look a little more interesting. I kind of like the little bit of white that's around his eyes. I'm going to try to keep a little bit of that there. Okay. Gonna mix a little bit of that first color back in there because he got a little too yellow just in that area. Maybe I'll just move this around a little bit more too. Okay. I'm gonna use some of my white on his tail and on his chest again. Just kind of give a little bit of color to it. All right, I'm going to use some of this color green. I'm gonna start with making a pretty solid shadow area. I'm using the tip of my brush to kind of outline that. And being really careful with just going very slow and outlining right up there. Do you see how that was still a little bit wet and it kind of blended right there? So if you notice that happening, that means you need to stop and wait a few minutes, let the paper dry the rest of the way, and then you can finish. Okay, so you could leave it like that. This looks a little, put a little more right in that area. You could leave it like this, or if you wanted, you can go ahead and go back and do some little strokes of grass. And basically the way that you're gonna do that is kind of use not the tip straight up, but kind of the side a little bit, and you can do some little tufts. It doesn't always have to be in groups of 3. And they don't always have to be touching either. You see, you could just kind of, I can also come back with a little bit darker green. See, and I can do, now you see how that's gonna spread because it's wet. So you gotta think about, you can see the difference in the grass where it's dry versus where it's wet. Like this kind of just disappeared altogether. I'm just gonna blend that in a little bit because it kind of didn't work, right? It was too wet still for grass. But it comes in handy, this color, for making the shadow a little deeper underneath him. And for your sky, I would recommend that you paint water first, right up to the edge of him. Be really careful where your brush goes. You don't want the bunny to turn blue. Just outline him with your water. And it's not a lot of water, it's just barely damp, really. I just want it to be ready to accept some color without it blending too much. So I'm gonna be really careful about that. And I got something on there, I'll clean that off. All right, then I'm going to use blue. So I put a little bit of paint on there, and then I'm gonna use water to kind of move it around. I don't want it to be too overpowering, too dark. I just want my sky to be really a light hint of blue. So lots of water, barely any paint is what's gonna make that work. I have lots of paint here, so I'm gonna need to use lots of water to dilute it and move it around so that it doesn't stain. You can see that you can still see that little line there. That's because this paper is not the best quality. It's hard to erase on this kind of paper, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter too much. Okay, I'm gonna get the rest of this bunny's sky done. I need to be careful not to go over him too much. Okay, using some more water to move this paint around that I already have here. Be really careful around this edge now. And I can actually move some of that paint that's over here. I can just slide it around and fill in this area since it's a little light. I don't even need to get more paint. I'm gonna go really slow and careful to go up next to him here and there. Okay, and I think I'm done.